The Scarlet King is the ultimate villain of the SCP Foundation, and this deity has sworn to destroy all of existence. And as we know, the king has many children which are to aid him on his quest to destroy reality. But which specific SCPs are the king's children? In this video, we try to answer this question. Before we start identifying his children, let's quickly remind ourselves of the king's history. As we know, the Scarlet King was born at the dawn of time, and he hated existence from the beginning. He wanted to destroy everything, but he needed to consolidate his power, so he forcefully took a goddess by the name of Sana and lay with her for 7 days. As a result, 7 girls were born, and he immediately took them by force and made them his brides. The 7 girls then gave birth to 7 ranks of abominations, who became the Scarlet King's most loyal servants. However, despite having gained tremendous power, he was still unable to enter our reality and destroy it. This is where SCP-231 comes into play. 231 is a set of 7 girls who belonged to a cult called the Children of the Scarlet King. This cult performed a series of rituals which turned the 231 instances into effigies of the king's brides, allowing them to deliver the king's offspring into our reality. As such, 7 children of the Scarlet King should be present in our world. But which specific anomalies were born? Well, in order to answer, we will have to read a specific SCP tale, namely Dust and Blood. This tale explains the king's history in detail and gives a vague description of each of his brides, as well as their children. But instead of exploring them in order, let's start with the more obvious. The 4th bride was vast and powerful and terrible to behold, taking the form of a great beast. Her children were like her and feared no weapon nor magical spell, for their injuries were healed and their hides impenetrable. Her seal was wrought, for by her hate she was forever bound in conflict. First off, the fact that these children are stated to be terrifying beasts makes us think of SCP monsters like 682 and 4715 right away. But the next sentence states that their injuries are healed, meaning that we're looking for a powerful creature that can regenerate. Of course, both 682 and 4715 can regenerate, meaning that they are both likely candidates. However, SCP-682 is the more powerful of the two, not to mention that SCP-343, the alleged creator of the universe, stated that he didn't create 682, meaning that someone else did. As such, the reptile is most likely the king's 4th child, and the second, rather obvious one is the 7th. The 7th bride was the smallest and the weakest of them all, but she was not broken by the king and was horrified by his state. Her children walked on 2 legs and were mighty hunters and heroes. She taught them in secret, hoping that they might destroy the children of her sisters and defeat the king. They are few, and they have failed. Her seal was hope, for she was doomed to know of what she could not achieve. Now this is where things get a bit more interesting, because we notice a few contradictions. This is because in the tale New Job, SCP-999 is stated to be the child of the 7th bride, and of course, in Dust and Blood, the children of the last bride are stated to be mighty hunters and heroes that walk on 2 legs. And as we know, SCP-999 doesn't have legs, because it is a ball of slime, and it isn't a hunter because it cures people from depression. However, we must not forget that Dust and Blood becomes quite metaphorical at times, and of course, SCP-999 can be called a great hero, seeing as it wants to help people. Also, in New Job, it is stated that 999 is only an infant, meaning that the tickle monster could theoretically grow legs in the future. And finally, let's not forget that SCP-999 King temporarily cured 6A2 of its hatred, which would make perfect sense if they were siblings, because their power levels would be similar. As such, despite the small contradiction, we still believe that SCP-999 is a child of the 7th bride. So with the obvious ones out of the way, let's discuss the others. The 5th bride was strong in mind, though frail in body. Her children were wise in the ways of magic, and created great destruction. But because of her powers, the king had them crippled, so that they might not rise against him. Her zeal was lack for her thirst, and that of her children was never quenched. Alright, this pretty much tells us that we're looking for an SCP that has a weak body but great skills in magic. And if we think about it, we come up with a likely candidate right away. SCP-239, also called the Witch Child, is an 8-year-old girl, 1 meter in height and 20 kilograms in weight. But most notably, 239 has the ability to do whatever she expresses a will to do, as long as she is conscious. And finally, in order to control her powers, the Foundation has told her that she is a witch and has given her a list of spells that she can use. So we see the similarities right away. SCP-239 is capable of magic because the girl can do whatever she wants, and her body is weak because she is a very small girl. As such, SCP-239 could very well be the child of the king's 5th bride. Moving on, let's discuss the 6th one. The 6th bride spoke not and held herself private. Her children could change their faces and move about unseen and walk among creation unknown. They opened ways between worlds and made way for the war to spread. Her seal was hidden, for she was lost in shadow. So basically, we are looking for an SCP that is hidden, unseen, and unknown, that can open portals between worlds. And if we think about mysterious SCPs whose nature is unknown, one anomaly comes to mind. SCP-055, also called the anti-meme, is an object that can't be remembered. As such, within a few minutes of exposure to 055, all information about it will be forgotten. So we see the similarities between the description of the 6th child and 055, because out of all SCPs in the wiki, 055 is the most mysterious one, seeing as literally nothing is known about it. Of course, we don't know if SCP-055 can open portals between worlds, but still, it is definitely the best candidate. Moving on, let's explore the 2nd one. The 2nd bride had a great hole in her soul that she could not fill, and so she despaired and wept. She brought forth many children, and they brought forth armies in a tide unthinking, to go forth and conquer. Her seal was longing, for neither the king nor her children could provide what she sought. Now, of course, the first sentence describes the bride herself, not the children, but I think it is reasonable to assume that the bride and her children should behave similarly. And if this is the case, then we should be looking for an SCP that is very sad. As such, the first thing that comes to mind is SCP-096, because as we know, when triggered, 096 begins to cry and scream. Of course, many of you will point out the second sentence in Dust and Blood, which states that these children brought forth armies to go forth and conquer. And of course, this doesn't seem to match SCP-096's behavior quite well. However, these sentences could be interpreted in various ways. For example, we could say that the Scarlet King's war is against life, meaning that if an SCP is terminating people, it is technically taking part in this war. And of course, if this is the case, then 096 is definitely taking part. But still, despite not being quite as certain as some of the previous children, SCP-096 being a child of the 2nd bride is definitely a possibility. Moving on, we have number 3. The 3rd bride had a great hatred of her sisters and brought ruin upon all she surveyed, and blasphemed upon sacred ground. Her children rode out to declare the triumph of the king, drowning battlefields in blood and ash, spreading pestilence and fear in their wake. As such, we are looking for a very aggressive SCP, one that will terminate everything it sees. Now this is where things get a little less obvious, because this description is quite vague, so we will have to make an educated guess. Let's take SCP-058. This anomaly is a huge cowheart with 4 spiny legs that can run very fast. It has a 10-foot long scorpion-like stinger, which can secrete an acid that can melt almost anything, and 058 is very resistant to damage. And of course, SCP-058 is extremely hostile and will use every opportunity to inflict damage on its surroundings. Now I know this doesn't perfectly match the description in Dust and Blood, but hear me out. In the wiki article, it is stated that 058 was first encountered at an SCP site when it came out of a redacted SCP, and of course, there aren't all that many SCPs which 058 could have come out of, so this very well could have been 231. Also, some people claim that other SCPs and tales link SCP-058 to the Scarlet King, though unfortunately, I wasn't able to find these articles. But still, combining all of this, we are left with the impression that 058 could definitely be the King's third child. And finally, we have the first one. The first bride was beloved of the King, though her children were few. For her loyalty, her children were made wise above all others, and knew well the ways of war. By their hands, they guided the war, and led to victory. Her seal was dominion, for just as she sought dominion, so she was dominated. And once again, we have a fairly vague description which could be interpreted in many ways. And unfortunately, out of all 7, the first child is the most uncertain. Many SCPs have been suggested, such as 035, 169, 053, and the most popular suggestion is SCP-053, of course. But this isn't without reason, because as we know, the young girl calmed SCP-682 down, and the reptile even allowed the girl to draw on his body. And of course, this is quite extraordinary, and it might indicate a deeper connection between the two, such as if they were siblings. However, this isn't enough information, and 053's description doesn't really match the description in Dust and Blood, and as such, the identity of the King's first child remains a mystery. So to summarize, using various sources, we can identify a few likely candidates for the Scarlet King's children, namely SCP-682, 999, 239, 058, 055, 096, and 053. However, these are just guesses, and as with anything Scarlet King related, the truth remains a mystery. If you enjoyed this video, then go watch our SCP-076 vs 073 video, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.